Hi, I'm Rebecca Dudensing, Associate Professor and Extension Economist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. You may wonder why I'm sitting in my car to talk about enterprise planning. This program derived from a business planning program that we have for farmers and ranchers and others involved in rural and agricultural businesses. We find that it's really often easier to think about new ideas while we're in the middle of other things, like driving the tractor or driving down the road with family, friends, or potential business partners. That's why we developed a business planning brochure, which we've now converted into an enterprise planning brochure aimed at nonprofits and semi-governmental groups to think about taking on new enterprises. I know that not everyone loves business planning quite as much as I do, so I think we should answer the question, why plan? It's important to plan to determine early if a new enterprise is feasible. There's no point in wasting money, time, and other resources on a mission that can't be accomplished. We may need to tweak our goal or completely change gears. Planning also lets us identify our goals and the actions that it'll take to reach those goals, and determine whether the economic, organization, and community potential from a plan outweighs the risks. Having a plan also helps us to organize for funding. Even with this brochure, you may be able to reach out to potential funders and show them what you're interested in doing. A plan definitely allows you to communicate with others, for example, potential partners that you might want to bring on board. And it gives you a benchmark to evaluate your results, knowing that by 6 months, we want to be so far along, and helps you to mitigate risk. And of course, it really is more about the planning than the actual plan. A business plan doesn't need to be a 22-page document. It probably needs to be a little more than this, but this is a good start. So first things, that feasibility test. Your plan needs to be consistent with the goals of your organization, and everyone who's involved needs to agree to the same goals. It also needs to be consistent with the community need or the opportunities that are available to you. You also need to know that you're able to compete. Again, there's no point in throwing resources at a mission that cannot be accomplished. I encourage you to think big and then work down to the small details, the ones that make a big difference. Think about what are your community needs and how do those needs match your mission? Consider the requirements of the enterprise that you're working on. What kind of financial needs do you have? Do you have volunteer labor or do you have staffing requirements? Is there space available to you? What other types of in-kind resources might you need? Also, how much time are you able to invest? And how much time can you expect from volunteers? How hard do you want to work? And how much fun do you want to have? Can you have fun doing this? Do you need to do things yourself, or are there things that you can outsource? What other limitations might you have? Of course, there is some really big, small stuff to consider as well. Thinking about your legal structure, how your bank accounts will be handled, and what forms of payment that you'll accept. Credit cards, squares, cash only? Will you take SNAP or vouchers if you're a food business? What sorts of regulations apply to you? Do you need permits or licenses? How do you pay your taxes? And what type of practices do you need to mitigate risks? Almost every enterprise has risk. These are all things that are super important and take time early in the planning process, but you don't want to be left without them. I'm an economist, so let's take just a moment to think about risk. There are a lot of different types of risk: legal risk, human risk, the risk of business interruption, risks associated with production, whether that's drought or flooding or biosecurity, marketing risk, and of course, financial risk. We want to avoid the risks that we can. We want to reduce risks, and we want to transfer risk if we think that that's necessary through insurance and other types of projects like that. But there is some risk that we just need to accept, and all partners need to agree on what level of risk they're able to accept and look into where they can avoid, reduce, and transfer risk elsewhere. All right, planning to plan. Take some time to think through these important questions before you write your formal plan. That can seem a bit daunting, but it's really going to help if you have some ideas already jotted down in your brochure or in a Google Doc. Remember that a lot of times ideas need time and space and communication and brainstorming to grow. So talk through your plan with partners and other trusted sources. Check out the enterprise planning brochure online. And remember that driving is a great place to discuss these sorts of things. I do want to go ahead and touch on you really quickly this share, moving to our brochure example, and just show you what's in there really quick. If you print this, you can print front and back, flip on short side, and you'll see the front page is actually the second page. Here I've added a picture. If you want to go out to a funder, or if you want to go out to potential new partners, you might want to pretty it up a bit. Probably don't want red text. You may want to change the colors. You may want to lose our AgriLife and WowWee logos. Make this really your own, but it'll give you a shell to go out to people with your ideas before you even have a business plan and show them what you're all about. So we've got our name, mission, and brand typed in here. We know who your team is, key staff members. We know who the partners are, especially if it's a multi-partner thing. It's not just your organization. Maybe it's 3 or 4 organizations and an element of city or county government all coming together. We have a good contact person with their information. We know the purpose of the lead organization or all organizations if there's equal partners, how that ties into their existing mission and business. Other local assets that enhance the venture. We need to know what the regulations are. And there's a section down here for things that we don't know yet, but we're still thinking about. On the second page, or the inside, which is really the first page of the Word document, we do have a whole short section on finances. We're going to go into, in a later video, a little bit more, well, a lot more financial information. But for right now, just having an idea of the financial support that your enterprise needs up front, what your assets and liabilities are, the potential for revenue and expected expenses, and from there you can guess an expected profit. This is my favorite section: business goals, the strategies to achieve them, and the benchmarks. How are you going to evaluate those things? We also have a statement of the problem or opportunity, your proposed solution, your target market, and your competition. And honestly, this panel is where I would start. Start identifying the problem, what you bring in terms of competitive advantage to solve that problem, who your target market is, and then be realistic about your competition. From there, it's easier to set those goals and think about how you're going to measure those things. Then you can jump back and forth between the other sections. Usually this will take a few weeks to work through, but it'll give you a really good start to knowing what you might need to do. Good luck. Don't hesitate to reach out.